You're in the Business Insurance Zone with me, Steve Savant, national insurance columnist and financial color commentator. This week on The Biz, our end of the year tax planning for 2012. And on today's show, our business response to the fiscal cliff. With special guests Ken Davis, CLU, CHFC, CFP, and CPA.
When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.
Well, welcome everyone to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm your host, Steve Savant, and we're broadcasting live to a nationwide audience of financial advisors right here in Fountain Hills, Arizona, home of America's largest fountain. And I'm just thinking of this because this is our business response. I want to welcome day 4, Ken Davis. Hey, Ken.
Steven, good to see you.
Our business response to the fiscal cliff. I mean, we got a lot on our agenda here we're going to have to hit. And I remember the old anthem, rock anthem of my childhood days from Bachman-Turner Overdrive. We're going to be taking care of business on this whole section right now because I really want to get down to it. And there are some monster changes. I want to do 179 first, then I'll hit the $500,000 issue for a second. Here's why I want to do this, because I remember when Section 179 depreciation was a lot bigger than it is now. Talk a little bit about that, because I think a lot of people are not aware that this is it. I mean, talk about that threshold and where was it and now where is it?
Yeah, where we are right now is I believe it's $139,000 that you can write off. What that means is you can buy equipment, place it into service by
Today,
the end of the year.
This year, right.
By December 31st. You buy some computer or something like that that's equipment, write it off before December 31st, has to be placed into service. By then, you get a full deduction.
Well, wait, I'm nervous. After yesterday's show, and you said I made a charitable deduction December 31 with a check, and the IRS could come back. Can they do that for this too, or no?
Well, just make sure that you bought the equipment. Use your credit card, put it in place. I don't remember reading any court cases on that particular issue. Charitable deductions is kind of a special area.
Special, okay.
But I suppose they could make that kind of an attack, although I've not seen it. But get it done, get it in place, put it in service before year end, because it drops $25,000 next year. From
139 to 25,000.
Yep.
Well, that is the fiscal cliff. I mean, that's a cliff just for business owners.
Well, and not only that, we also have accelerated depreciation of 50%. Up to $500,000 this year. It was more last year. It's less this year, and then it goes down again next year. So
I guess if you had to make some, I hear there's trillions of dollars sitting on the sidelines in businesses. Maybe this is the year to pop for it with everything going down.
And here's a great example of when those that say if you tax the rich, then you're going to lose jobs. Well, if you take these depreciation deductions away, businesses buy this equipment to run their businesses, and that makes employees more productive. It allows them to produce more goods and services, and then those computers, when they're manufactured and sold, all the retail shops and the computer experts and all the stuff, I mean, this just goes all the way through the economy. When you take these incentives away, suddenly they're not spending that kind of money, and the economy does get hurt.
Now, when you talked about the accelerated depreciation, talk a little bit more, because I think a lot of our viewers are probably a little unfamiliar with that idea.
Well, basically, you can accelerate. In other words, the old concept of depreciation is how many years will it last? Is it 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever? And we go through these classifications of what their life expectancies are. And the whole idea is that slowly but surely you get a deduction for the use of that product because you're going to have to replace it later on. Well, accelerated depreciation techniques say, okay, well, we're going to, for the time being, ignore what the real life expectancy is, and we're going to let you deduct more up front as an incentive to go out and buy this equipment, take the deduction. It makes it easier for you to afford.
But that's getting sliced.
It's getting reduced, yes.
Heavily. Well, let's talk a little bit about also, if I was thinking about purchasing something today, getting all my computers, anything like this, I just keep thinking that even if we're going over the cliff, my brackets aren't going to be less next year. My depreciation is not going to be better next year. I'm just wondering, should I be spending down some of my cash, my retained earnings? Should I be starting to spend this down?
Well, yeah. I mean, we have this conundrum. Next year we may have higher tax rates, so you might want the deductions next year. But this year we have certain deductions that you won't get next year. So by all means, take them this year.
And I'm wondering, when we talk about, there's a lot of individual business owners, right, which is the backbone of America. I'm wondering if they should load up on their SEP IRAs. I mean, really just, this is the year to start getting ready to start playing ball on major deductions.
Well, they should, and I think, because it's a year-end show and traditionally we talk about deductions on year-end tax shows, probably the biggest mistake we all make is that we're not looking to the future. We're trying to get in right under the wire. By planning next year with tax deferral concepts, which we'll be talking more about tomorrow with life insurance and annuities, we can build earnings on a passive basis and not have them subject, at least initially, to these 3.8% tax, the potential 39.6% maximum bracket, Medicare taxes or premiums, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, people should not only be thinking about this year, and they should be talking to their clients about doing something now so that we won't be facing this as big a problem at the end of next year.
Well, I'm trying to think about strategies. We're always thinking about, well, am I going to replace computers? Has there been any upgrade in computers, telecommunication, iPads, all these? I mean, we saw when the iPhone went out, I was looking at for maybe a quarter of a point on GDP to go up just on that basis alone. I mean, because that was a huge thing worldwide. When we look at some of the deals that are out there, we probably had one of our best Black Fridays shopping excursions. And then, of course, Monday on Amazon.com. I think there's deals out there to be had. So if you have a small business, this is the time to look at upgrades in your equipment, your computer, your communication. All these things are strategies and tactics that I think you can use this year on this side of this year. I can't believe 179 is getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
A couple of cautions. There are special categories that equipment has to be used totally for business, or it could be classified as a scheduled type of a product. So be careful when, you know, don't just assume it's deductible. Work with your tax advisor before you jump into this type of thing. And if you're going to put money in the new equipment, know that you're actually going to use it in the business. Don't let the tax tail wag the dog. You know, there has to be real economic opportunity there as well.
And that reminds me, remember, a lot of times, and I hate to say this, CPAs aren't very proactive. But if you bring it to them, they'll walk you through this. And I think that's what we need to wake our accountants up to say, hey, we need to do some strategy before the end of the year. We're going to continue our discussions on the fiscal cliff. Don't forget, you can enroll in the IULUniversity.com for the best training, education, and sales support when it comes to life insurance for retirement income.
You're listening to the insurance industry's #1 resource for products, planning ideas, carrier information, and interviews you can use. When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.
Did you know the average 401k runs out of money just 7 to 8 years into retirement? Time Magazine, the Wall Street Journal, and many other publications have warned of the difficulty of saving with a 401k. But what if there was a way to create tax-free lifetime retirement income with no stock market risk? Good news, there is.
You know, living in fear of the next market dive is not the way I want to live my life.
Why would I go out there and take on risk when I don't need to?
I have a lot less stress knowing I can't lose any more of my retirement savings in the stock market.
Call now to receive your free, no-obligation analysis of what this retirement vehicle could do for you, a comparison to your current retirement plan, and a free video that explains this exciting opportunity. Start planning a retirement you can enjoy instead of worrying about future tax increases and stock market losses. Creating income that will last your entire life is the most important thing you'll ever do. Take control of your future. Call now for your free analysis, comparison, and video.
Well, welcome back to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm Steve Savant with Ken Davis. And remember, you can order today's giveaway at TheBiz at BrokersAlliance.com, and we're giving away the 2012 End of the Year Planning Guide. And just a heads up, before moving forward with any of the ideas you hear on our show today, especially anything to do with tax issues, always consult your tax advisor, and if you're FINRA licensed, your broker-dealer compliance officer. We're talking about business strategies that you can do still. There's still time to make a decision. Should I defer it to next year? Should I take it now? A lot of those issues are coming up, and one of those issues is about hiring. Now, Ken, I'm always debating. If I take on a full employee, I have to do these benefits, and now with Obamacare, I'm really I have to go down a whole nother road of math to figure out, can I afford to take on a new person? I've seen some, not all, but some flight to more temporary or part-time to avoid this.
Well, that strategy's been around for a long time, and it creates a lot of problems for people. I've watched some part-time workers have 2 and 3 jobs just so they can make a decent living. And part of it is that the rules in the company may be you have to work so many hours in order to participate in medical plans, and of course those have gotten really expensive. So if you don't have to cover them, maybe that, especially with what's going on with Obamacare, And there's other issues like vacation pay, other things. However, when you get into multiple employees, you have, maybe FICA taxes and stuff may not be maxed out. If you had a really high paid employee and now you have two of them, you have certain limits on contributions, stuff like that. One of the more interesting things I want to talk about today is that there's been a tax credit, remember, dollar for dollar reduction in tax, in place since the beginning of 2011 that goes away at the end of this year, and that's for our veterans. There's a work opportunity credit that can pay up to, what was it, $6,900 per person?
Yeah, $9,600.
$9,600.
Wow.
Transposition error. $9,600 per employee that you hire.
Credit.
Yeah, credit. Now, these are complex rules. Make sure that you qualify, that you meet all the detail. But there's an opportunity to hire some veterans before the end of the year, which all of us can get behind, supporting our veterans that were over, giving their, taking risk in their lives in foreign countries to protect us. So, this is one way we can give back and have some tax relief, and maybe hire that employee that if you didn't have that credit, you might not be able to afford to hire them. So there's an opportunity for small businesses to do some good with our veterans and also to help their businesses.
Well, I think that's a great idea because we all want to be behind our troops without question. But now we're talking about, and that's a sizable credit, $9,600. That'd take the edge off of hiring, because a lot of times people say the ramp-up time for a new employee is the most costliest acquisition when you hire a new employee. Now we have the government helping you out. By the way, tax credit, right? Dollar for dollar. For that front end kind of ramping up to the hire. Now, when I'm thinking about this, I mean, we still have a couple weeks to go, and there are servicemen returning right now, right today, from all our theaters of war and all these places. I think this is a good time to start looking. If you're looking for employees, this is a great, great tax credit to really get a hold of.
Well, and think about it. Some of our military people are into electronics and other types of things, accounting, other types of skill sets that are useful to private businesses, turning swords into plowshares, so to speak, and allowing those people to bring that expertise to the small businesses. And furthermore, they have certain grants for education. So, maybe they work with you and then they're going to school and they're upgrading their education. They become a really important person in your business in the future. As they grow with your business. So, this is a good opportunity for everybody, I think.
I love that strategy. And again, if you want more on it, I'm sure there's stuff on the web. I don't have any of this for our show, I'm sorry to say. But head out to the web and see if you can figure out how to play this game, because it'd be good for some of your small business clients. This is an area where they're thinking about expanding. This is a great way to help the government kind of give them a transition into their expansion. Another thing I want to talk about on employment, again, though, I'm looking at strategies, and I've seen this now. Because of Obamacare coming online, we see different companies maybe creating several entities, scaling down their workforce to get under these thresholds. I think one of them is 50 employees. And I've also seen going to some part-time relief to try to pull this away, because nobody wants to foot the bill. But I've also seen, and Ken, I don't know if you can talk this or not, but the penalties for not doing it, on some, it seems like the penalty is less than actually imposing the Medicare.
Yeah, I really don't.
Or the medical price.
I really don't know the details on what that is, but back to your point about creating separate entities, we saw this happen in the tax law many, many years ago. In fact, one of the major clients that I worked on the tax return had hundreds of restaurants, and I won't mention who that was, but because they had lower tax brackets. Well, then the IRS and the Treasury got smart and said, okay, if these entities are owned by the same people and you meet these rules and they're all aggregated for purposes of tax rates and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see as we go into this if the administration will come back and say, okay, you've been playing games. You used to have 400 employees and you got a dozen companies now, and now they're below and you're skirting the issue, and so now we're going to have these new rules on you. And that's that cat and mouse game that goes on in all types of laws. Is the law goes into place, businesses and people look at it, they go to their advisor and say, how can I plan to avoid this? And then that changes. And the fact is, too, I wonder if we're going to have a lot more scofflaws, people that are taking cash businesses. It's like, okay, I don't want to pay these high taxes, and I don't mean to pick on a particular industry, but landscape or something like that. They take cash, they don't report it, the higher the tax rates are, the more that type of activity happens. So we don't get the increases we think we're going to get.
There is a whole underground financial environment out there between cash companies like you've described and bartering. We just saw this on television where the guys finally had to pay tax to the IRS. Don't forget, you can watch our show and all this week's shows by hopping out to our website at www.brokersalliance.com. Just hit that red on-demand button. That's for the buzz for the biz for today. Get in the zone, the business insurance zone.
The Biz is brought to you by Brokers Alliance, a national leader in insurance products, support services, and educational workshops. When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.